Ben Smith from Ultrasound of the Week. This is a tutorial on how you can colorize ultrasound clips. Over the past month or so, I've been releasing on Twitter and on the website these clips just like this here, where you've got this is of course a peristernal short axis view of the heart, but the various segments of the heart have been labeled and then colorized. And I've been asked how I did this. People think it's really complicated, but it's really not. Some people have even asked me if I've been doing rotoscoping. That's where an animator goes through and frame by frame colorizes every single shot. And at 30 frames per second for a 6-second clip, that would be a lot of time for me to do that. So it is not rotoscoping. It is, of course, everyone that knows me knows that this is going to be a Photoshop technique. The best way for me to demonstrate this technique is to fire up Photoshop and show you how Photoshop interacts with color. So here I've got just a grayscale image. It's a gradation between totally black over here on the left side of the screen and then totally white on the right side of the screen. And then this is 33 different grayscales broken up. And so, every ultrasound image is essentially just like this. It's a, moving set of stills that are gradations from between white and black. So this will be a good demonstration. And of course, every ultrasound image, you may have more or less gradations of grayscale depending on how you have your machine set up and what preset it's using. So I'm going to create a new layer on top of my gradations grayscale, and then I'm going to color on top of that. And so I'm going to select the brush tool by hitting B and right clicking and increase the size of my brush, and I'll leave the hardness somewhere around 50%. And then on the left side I'm going to select my foreground color and then select somewhere in here sort of a bright red, and then I'm just going to draw over top. And as you see, it did what it said it was going to do. It put a swath of red paint right over top of my ultrasound image. But we can't really see the ultrasound image beneath it, so you can actually go over here to select opacity and drop that down. So we're starting to get the idea here that you can actually paint over top of an ultrasound image and actually see the ultrasound underneath. So this is actually starting to become useful. But if you play this ultrasound image, you're just going to end up with this swath of color right over top of your image, and you're not going to get a sense of motion whatsoever. So it's not going to really be exactly what you want. So this is where the special sort of trick comes in. If you select that layer, and then up here there's a little pull down menu that says normal, that's called your blending mode. If you select that blending mode, you get all these various options, and you can change what you're seeing to these various modes and try it out. You can get some kind of cool effects, hard mix, soft light, overlay. And it affects the layers underneath. It essentially tells Photoshop how to blend your color layer with the grayscale image underneath. The two that are really useful for what we're doing here, though, are darker color and lighter color. Let me select darker color and show you what I'm talking about. You immediately see that this swath of red is now not colorizing the left side, the darker grayscale gradations. It's only coloring the lighter gradation. So it's actually, now it's useful. We're starting to be able to selectively color something in the ultrasound image. And let's just say that we wanted to colorize just these over here. What we want to do is adjust our layer so it's even lighter. So the best way to do that is to put in an adjustment layer. So down here at the bottom of the layers panel, you can click this, and this is the adjustment layers flyout menu. You can select exposure is probably the best one to go with here. Now we want this exposure layer to affect not the whole shot. See, it's affecting the whole shot. As I do this, we want it just to affect the color layer underneath. So if we right click on that adjustment layer and click create clipping mask, now we're just affecting the color layer. So I can increase the exposure. You can see as I increase the exposure, it changes the color, makes it a little more pink, but it starts to affect less and less of the image. Now if I put the exposure the other way, it starts to affect further more on the left side of the screen. And you can see it does affect the color a little bit as it goes up and down, but we can selectively color our image underneath by adjusting the exposure. Let's say that I want just these light areas over here on the right side of the screen. So let's say I'm looking at an ultrasound of the heart and I just want to colorize the myocardium. So now I'm just selectively colorizing this bright white areas and nothing in the black. So this is going to be like your lumen of the LV is going to be over here on the left side of the screen, and the myocardium is on the right side of the screen. And so what I can do then is, let's say this color just isn't perfect for me, so I'm going to leave the exposure there because it's colorizing the correct spot. If I select my color layer and then go to Image, Adjustments, Replace Color, and then I put with my eyedropper select the color swath here, which is then selected up here. I can on the resulting color I can actually adjust this. So you can see it's actually changing what it affects, but it also changes the color. And so increasing the saturation sometimes helps. If you want to, once again, you have some more control here with lightness, and you see it actually affects more or less of the image shot. Just another way that you can adjust the color, the opacity, and how much is being affected. So let's see. Let's just say we want our hue, make it kind of a yellowish right here. That's pretty good. And you can see now that you're starting to colorize that just what you want. You can actually change the opacity. Once again, you can take it all the way up or bring it all the way down, somewhere in between, just to put as much color in there as you want, just colorizing the bright areas of the shot. I'm going to close this out. Now we're going to switch to an actual ultrasound clip, and I'll show you how it plays out. So with Photoshop, you go to File, then Open, and I'm going to select my severe CHF clip that I've got here and open it. And then first thing I'm going to do is right click on my clip over in the Layers panel and convert to Smart Object. And then I'm going to drag it down and pull it out of that video group and delete the video group. We don't need the video group anymore. It just automatically creates that for you, but it's just in the way. So now we've got our clip, and if I hit the space bar, it'll play. It's pretty easy. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Do that by holding down the Option key and then rolling my mouse wheel, just so that you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. If I once again hit the space bar, you can see that it plays. It's a little pixelated, and it's dropping some frames, and it's slower than the actual video clip, but that's all fine, no big deal. Once we export it and render it out, it should play back at the normal speed. So we want to create a new layer on top of that, and let's go to the brush tool by hitting B, and once again we'll increase the size of our brush by right-clicking and then increase the size. And I'm going to put the hardness somewhere around 50%, so it's kind of got soft edges. Actually going to decrease the size a little bit of our brush, a little bit too big. And select some color here. I'm going to go with this red right here. And we'll change the opacity of our layer to about 50%. And let's just see what happens when I color. When I color here, you can see that I'm getting color that's kind of bleeding out into the lumen. And if I then go through now I got to zoom out on my timeline and pull this color layer back so it affects the whole clip, and then I can drag the end of it here. So if I watch the video like this, you can see the color is just straight over top of the clip, and it just looks kind of crummy. So now we want to once again have it just affect those lighter areas of the shot. So select the blending mode, select the layer that you have the color on, then select the blending mode, and we want it to be a darker color. So we're going to select darker here, and now hit play. Let's try it again. All right, you can see it's starting to affect just that one area of the heart there. And you can see it's not quite colorizing it perfectly. We can change that by adding in an adjustment layer. We need to affect more of the darker area of the myocardium and for it to really be effective here. So we'll go down here to our adjustment layer and click exposure. And we're going to create a clipping mask, just like we did before. And now what we're going to do is drop the exposure. And see, as we drop the exposure, it starts to fill in more of the myocardium. Now if we dropped it all the way, it would actually start to bleed out into the lumen, but actually looks like it goes almost totally dark at that point. So somewhere around, for me, -3 based off that color, and then if I hit play, you can see now it's just affecting the myocardium and nothing around it. Now if you watch this play, if I go back to this layer and go back to my brush and I could actually paint way out here, and obviously this is going to be affected because it's bright white. So if you hit the E button, which will take you to the eraser tool, and put my eraser about 50% hardness, I can go through and just sort of, I'm actually increasing the size of the brush here by using the left and right bracket tool. I can then go through and delete what I don't want, and now watch it play. So some of it bleeds into the myocardium just a little bit. Maybe I'll go back to my adjustment layer here and increase this exposure just a hair, which actually increases my saturation. So I kind of like the way that looks. And then I can hit space and see that it's just affecting that one part. So if we want to draw a second color, what we'll do is create a new layer on top of that one by hitting the new layer button down here at the layers panel, and make sure our drag on the timeline our new layer back to the beginning of the clip, and make sure it follows the whole clip. And we'll select our brush by hitting the B button, and we can go over here and select another color. I've got the blue color selected, and we'll make sure this is select to a darker color, and then we can then go through and brush. As you see, it looks really kind of crummy right now because we forgot to put our opacity back. So we'll put our opacity back to 50% or so here, and then hit the space bar, and you'll see how it looks. It's starting to just colorize the myocardium, but you can see actually we're starting to lose part of it here. If you look right here, we're losing color, and right there. So once again, we need to create a new adjustment layer. So go over here to the adjustment layers and select exposure, and we'll create a clipping mask to just affect that blue color, and we can increase our exposure. That decreases the amount of color that we've got, and then we can drop our exposure back till we're colorizing just what we want. And once again, I hit space, and you can see that we're colorizing just that part that we want to colorize. One thing to note is that you want to have an echocardiogram for this technique that is really pretty contrasty. If you have a echocardiogram that's really low contrast, you're not going to have much black and white in the shot. And so what you're going to end up having is this is just going to colorize everything. It's going to be as if you have this blending mode set to on your color layer set to normal instead of darker color. It'll just color everything. So you need to have a good contrasty echo, which is what we want anyway for an ultrasound image. And then as you hit play, it just affects those gradations of gray that you want to affect. Just get rid of these colors here. I want to show you, if I want to just color the lumen, I can select our top layer here, create a new layer on top, and we'll once again pull our color back here, color layer, and then pull it to the end, and select the brush tool. We're going to select we'll just stay with that blue right there, and then hit B for brush, and change our opacity here to 50%. And I'm just going to paint in where the lumen is, approximately. And we want this just to affect the darker colors. So I'm going to select out of the blend mode lighter color. So now I've got the just the lumen affected, and if I hit play, you can actually see, as I hit play, you can actually see that it starts to affect a little bit out here, so right here. So I don't like that, so I'm going to hit the E for eraser, and I'm going to just delete some of that. I hit play. As you can see, I'm starting to actually get, I'm not fully filling the lumen. So once again, I'm going to go back. I guess I have to redo that paint in the lumen there, and then hit play again. See, it starts to affect some of that up there. So I can go up to my adjustment layer and hit the exposure, and then create the clipping mask again. And I can change my exposure so it's only affecting, basically what you want to do is as you go over here, it bleeds out more. As you go to the left, it bleeds out less. The color's a little bit darker, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. So you can see there that it affects just the darker area. Now, as you can see, my darker area is not totally black. So I can actually add an adjustment layer to my clip over here. Let's just go to, let's just try exposure. Just drop the exposure just a little bit. So it's getting it darker, but you can see I'm starting to lose some of the brightness areas over here. So I'm going to undo that. I'm just going to delete that exposure layer, and let's change it to contrast. So we've got brightness and contrast. So what I want is a bigger difference between the white and the black, And if I just bump up the contrast, I should be able to get that. As you can see there, that's more contrasty. So as I hit play, it just shows me the lumen colored in blue. And I can go back and turn back on my other colors. I'm just turn back on the red and show you how I've got blue in the lumen, and I've got red on the myocardium. Sometimes you may find that the edges of your color are a little harsh for whatever reason. You can select the layer, your color layer, and then go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and it'll show you what your color looks like. You can just sort of bump this up somewhere around 2, and just sort of makes the edges of a little more smoother, so it doesn't show up as a super well demarcated color swath over top of your clip. So let's export this and see how it looks. Just go to export, and then we'll go to save for web. We're going to save this as a GIF. When you save these colorized images as GIFs, you want to make sure that it has at least 256 colors, which I think is actually the maximum, so that's what you want to have it set to. And you can see this GIF is 18 megabytes, which is humongous. So I'm going to have to play around with it. Actually, the best way to do this is I'm just going to grab this, cancel that, and then grab my work area and pull it over. I really only want a couple of beats worth in there in the shot. We'll just do it in half, and then we'll go back to File, Export, Save for Web. So it's only going to export now just 3 seconds instead of 6 seconds, so that decreased my size to 8.9. Let's just drop the size here. I can actually just change the percent here. Let's go to 60%. Let's go to 75%. And then click over here on the image size. It's going to think for a second. And we're down to 5.4. It's getting pretty good. I can go to lossy, and I can bump this up to maybe 20% or so. We'll lose a little bit of quality. And now we're closer to 3. So let's just go ahead and I'll change my looping options to forever. And then go to save. And we'll just save this on the desktop as a severe CHF GIF. And it'll take a second to export. I'll show you what that looks like. Right click and open with Chrome or Safari. And there you have it. So now you've got a clip there that's just colorizing the one segment of the heart, of course, and then the lumen as well. And this technique, you have to tweak it and play with it. You may have to adjust your clips to get them to look just right, but that's basically it. This is Ben Smith. Have a good day.